Hello friends, it's Jameson here with another vlog. Today I decided to skip all of the boring daily routine stuff and get right on the road. We are going to look at some Christmas/holiday lights in the city, my favorite city by the bay, San Francisco. But first we have to make our way out Highway 37. Gonna head out through the marsh till we get to Highway 101. Then we're gonna head south through San Rafael. And when we're in San Rafael, which will be coming up right now, we're going to see Mount Tam. Love me some Mount Tam. We're going to get a little up-close view of Mount Tam. There we go. And in a moment here, we're going to come up on my favorite bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, some of this might look familiar because we have done this drive before and it has been in previous vlogs, but if you want to see those vlogs, if you haven't seen them, I will put up a little card here so you can check it out. I was messing around with the editing here, trying to do some fancy like speed up, slow down, whatever video effects. I don't know what the hell it's called, but hopefully it's not too jarring for those who are sensitive to that kind of thing. And then here we are going under one of those beautiful Art Deco Golden Gate Bridge towers. And we're going to catch a little bit of the sunset over on the right. Now, before we cross the bridge, I'm going to show a couple postcards from my collection here. These first two are from the 40s and 50s, I believe. It's interesting to think that when these photos were taken, the bridge was pretty brand spanking new, probably less than 10 years old. And this last postcard is early 1900s, before the bridge even existed. So this illustration was probably like around 1904 or something like that. And I believe that that is for Mason in the foreground there. And here we are back on the bridge. I mean, for almost 100 years old, this bridge looks pretty dang good in my opinion. Once we cross the bridge, we're going to see one of my other favorite landmarks in San Francisco, the Palace of Fine Arts. A little glimpse of that. And then we're going to see some lights, because that's what we're really here for. That's why we're driving through the city tonight. We want to see some Christmas lights and decorations. Now, I forget what street this is that we're on, but I think it's a pretty big street. Somebody who lives in San Francisco probably can just eyeball it and know what street this is. There's a lot of really nice Victorian houses there that have been restored and maintained nicely. We're going to head on up to this hospital. I think it's the Davies Medical Center. You know, to be honest with you, we kind of just winged it. I put in like a bunch of random landmarks in San Francisco where I thought there were going to be lights. And we kind of just went wherever Siri told us to go. And by Siri, I mean the Siri version with the Irish accent that my mom loves so much. And honestly, I love him too. He's great. Great accent. Here's Pixie checking out the view. Okay, now I actually know where we are. This is the Haight-Ashbury. There's a lot of like psychedelic looking buildings here, man. Yeah. And we actually have to go through this area in order to get to the first destination, which was really just this one lone house. I think it's on Castro Street and up like across the street from Davies Medical Center. And really, I just knew to go there because I saw somebody on a Reddit forum who mentioned that there's like this really cool house with a bunch of lights on it. And I think that was from 2 years ago. So whoever's living there is still doing it. And here it is coming up in a second. You're going to see all the glory of this house. There it is. Oh, wow. Just imagine the electricity bill on that bad boy. That would be expensive. But then again, I feel like if you have a $3 million house, that's probably the least of your expenses. So now we're going to move on, catch a little streetcar action going down the street. And then we're going to pass an ambulance, because there's always ambulances. I'm trying to figure out what this building is. I think it's an old armory building. At least that's what it looks like to me. I don't know. And then I think this is... what street is this? I don't know. I forget what street. Not the best at identifying the streets, but there's... was that Mission? We might have just crossed Mission Street. Here's a bunch of cool looking modern buildings with no Christmas lights. But we really want the Christmas lights. And we're going to find them at City Hall. City Hall is always decked out for the holidays. Love the way that they light it up. This was definitely one of the best attractions that we saw on this trip. So much so that we actually like drove around the whole block at least twice, I think. So you're gonna get some really good city hall footage and all the kind of surrounding areas of the civic center there. As we go around the block here one more time, I'm going to mention that in high school, I think my junior year of high school, we had our prom here, and it was such a special location to have prom. I think our other years, we'd had it at another location in San Francisco, and then my senior year, we did it at the racetrack in Albany. But having it here at City Hall was so cool. I mean, the inside, the interior is just like all marble staircases and just these like different levels, and you can like look up into the dome, and it's just like so gorgeous. And so to have basically like a school dance there was incredible. It was something I'll never forget. Moving across the street now, there is the War Memorial Opera House, I believe. I've never been inside or even up close to the War Memorial Opera House, but especially at night, it looks very majestic. And apparently, there's the Nutcracker playing, which is not a surprise considering it is Christmas time. Now we're gonna move over to Union Square. Here's a like tour guide on an old fire truck or something. I thought that was really cool. It looked fun and festive and whatnot. Drove around Union Square a little bit and saw all the fancy shops like Gucci and Macy's. As you'll see here, Macy's has always had a very beautiful holiday display with the Christmas tree and the wreaths in the windows. It's just something that you really got to experience in person. Can't really see it in this video, but across the street from Saks is this Hotel Chancellor, and I'm going to put up an old postcard here so you can get a little view of it. This postcard's from the 1920s. One year, my friends and I came to Union Square for New Year's Eve expecting to see fireworks, and I stopped in at the Hotel Chancellor there to use the bathroom one time, and the person at the front desk was nice enough to let me do that. It was very nice. But we spent the rest of the time in Union Square waiting for the countdown, and then the countdown happened, and we were expecting lots of fireworks, and then nothing happened. And it was funny because the whole square was like full of people, like all on the sidewalks, expecting the same thing, and we all just stood around, and literally nothing happened. As we wrap up our time at Union Square here, I'm going to take the opportunity to throw up a couple more old postcards, and I think all of these are going to be of the Hotel St. Francis, which has a very rich history in terms of San Francisco. This first postcard is the most interesting and confusing to me because it says the hotel was entirely destroyed by the earthquake and fire of 1906. But when I look up the history of the hotel, most of what I read says that it wasn't entirely destroyed. It wasn't even significantly damaged. And actually, the earthquake itself did little to no damage. And it was actually the fires that broke out through the city that did the most damage to it. But it was renovated fairly quickly and was back thriving by 1915 when they had the Pan Pacific Expo. But originally it was built in 1904. So it had only been open a couple years before the earthquake hit. Interestingly, John Barrymore, Drew Barrymore's grandfather, was staying at the hotel during the earthquake, as was opera singer Enrico Caruso, who I would guess was performing at the Opera House sometime during those dates. One last thing I just want to mention about Union Square is in these old postcards, you can really see the difference of what it used to look like. I mean, it used to basically, the square used to be surrounded by hotels like the Hotel Chancellor and Hotel St. Francis. I think there's a couple other ones like the Sir Francis Drake. So the whole facade of these hotels used to face Union Square, so you could look out over it. But over the last 100 years or so, they have built a lot of other buildings in front of them, which are now occupied by brands like Gucci and restaurants like the Cheesecake Factory. Modernity can kind of be a bummer sometimes. Okay, let's get back to the streets. Now we're kind of just going to roam around the city for a while until we head to our next stop, which is the Embarcadero. So we'll pick it back up when we get there. And we're back. Here we are on the Embarcadero. There's lots of nice palm trees and the buildings are looking very festive. We're going to come up on the ferry building here, which is one of my favorite San Francisco landmarks. We lucked out and drove up on the ferry building right as they were doing this glow thing, which you can see the countdown is hitting 0 there and it's starting. It's where they project these images and different kind of like lights and cool colors onto buildings around the city. And today they were doing it at the ferry building, so we kind of lucked out and got to see some of that. And I think they kind of play music too, so I thought that was really cool. I'm also going to take this opportunity to show some postcards. I really love these old postcards. I love them so much. So you can see these first two are from the 40s era, and you can see really not much has changed, at least from the outside of the ferry building. And then you can see these next two are early, like 1908 era, and you can see it looks quite a bit different. It looks like dirt road even in front of the building there. And then the last one finally is from the water on the other side. So you get a view of a ferry coming on up to the building. Here's a little glimpse of Coit Tower and a nice chrome postcard from the 1960s. Now we're coming up on Pier 39 and Fisherman's Wharf. And oh boy, talk about a difference between back when these postcards were made and now. This place is like unrecognizable. It has turned into tourist hell. You can see in this postcard, I can't even tell you how different this is. It's like, what am I looking at? I mean, good or bad, I love all of San Francisco, but I have to admit this place resembles a circus. Picking back up on Lombard Street, it has been a long time since I have been on Lombard Street, probably since I was a kid. I'm going to put a couple postcards up here. You can see it has often been billed as the crookedest street in the world. I'm not sure if that title still stands, but this first postcard was from the 1940s. And then there's a subsequent one from the 1960s. In this next clip, you can hear my mom and I talking about how the last time we were on the street, we remember just it flooded with tourists. And I'm not sure if that's because it was during the day or a different time of year or whatever, but when we went down it this evening, there was like almost nobody. There was like one car in front of us.
There'd be like there'd be a line of cars waiting to go down it.
It's fun to look at these houses along the street and imagine what it would be like living there. I believe one of them was the Real World house when it was on MTV in the early 90s. You might notice the screeching of the tires along the street. That's because it's so steep and the turns are so sharp. And also, the surface is a little different. It's not your typical pavement, it's like a polished brick. Now we are going to wrap it up and head home, head up through the Golden Gate Bridge, and maybe we'll show a couple more house Christmas lights and stuff along the way. But the real surprise is when we get back home, we're going to see the Christmas lights that my mom and I put up. And there they are. We put those up the day before, I think, and they have an app where you can like do all kinds of wild patterns and different themes for different times of the year, like Easter, St. Patrick's Day, New Year's. It's just all kinds of fun. Also put up this inflatable gingerbread man. Alright, well that's it for this video. Thanks for coming along. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.